You're bringing now into the conversation your friend, Texas Republican Congressman Will Hurd. He joins us this morning from San Antonio. Good morning to you, Congressman. Let's start on that point of discrepancy between the two of you. Congressman Himes said there is nothing being withheld from the minority. You signed a letter with 8 other Republicans saying, yes, there is information being withheld from you.
Well, Margaret, it's always a pleasure to be with you on a Sunday morning talking about important issues. And I want to confirm one fact. Jim Himes and I are indeed friends, and we have worked together. That may shock a lot of the American people that Republicans and Democrats actually work together. Here's why I signed that letter. My issue is not necessarily with the information we're getting in advance, because Congressman Himes is right. Sometimes those documents are given at midnight before the hearing. My concern is with the information that the committee has access to after these depositions are done. As a member of the committee, I was only able to get access to the transcript of the Ambassador Volker interview a couple of days ago, and that interview had been conducted almost 3 weeks prior. Why haven't we gotten access to all the text messages that Ambassador Volker has sent over? I haven't been able to review that. These depositions have been going on for 10 or 12 hours a day, and you're not able to sit in all of them. So I want to know, why hasn't that information been made available to you, Margaret? And I appreciate you asking the question about when some of this stuff is going to be made available, because I think the press and the Fourth Estate plays an important check and balance in this. And I would say, this is also not an impeachment inquiry. These are just regular, regular oversight hearings. And why are we doing this in the Intelligence Committee? This is, when it started, this was a whistleblower whose identity we should be protected. I was one of the few Republicans that said the whistleblower allegations were significant and serious enough that we should investigate. Even Chairman Schiff has said that we shouldn't have the whistleblower in front of the committee. So why is the Intel Committee doing this when the Intel Committee should be looking at the intelligence we had on Turkey before they moved into Syria, where we should be calling intelligence professionals to come in and tell us, how are we going to be prepared to fight a resurgent ISIS, which is going to happen.
Well, I do want to ask you.
This.
I do want to ask you about Syria, but just to be clear, you are permitted to sit in on those depositions. You just have not chosen to. Correct?
For sure. I've sat in a lot of them, but I haven't also gotten the information after it was over. Those are all being transcribed. The evidence that is given in those meetings has not been made fully available to Republicans. And there's issues like Republican staff is being limited from being in some of these hearings when the majority staff is able to have more. And having staff in those interviews are super important.
Do you think that there was, if not a quid pro quo, an understanding or a perception of one between the White House and Ukraine?
That's a good question, and to me, that's the heart of this matter. And what was the, if there was a quid pro quo, what was it for? Was it for investigation of the previous election, or was it to get dirt for 2020? And what we haven't heard yet, we haven't heard from any Ukrainian official that felt like there was this arrangement. We haven't even had a Ukrainian official tell a State Department official that they felt like their arms were being twisted. I would have thought, based on some of the State Department officials that we've met, we've interviewed so far, that you would even get an inkling of that was happening. When I was in the CIA, I participated in diplomacy as well, and this is very often that the country you're posted to, in this case, let's say Ukraine, if they hear something, they're going to go to their contacts at the embassy and say, hey, what does this actually mean? And we haven't gotten any whiff of that when it comes to this issue. I also want to know, who did Rudy Giuliani actually talk to? We know for a fact he's talked to 2 Ukrainians, the former
So you'd
AG.
like him to come before the committee and answer questions?
Oh, for sure.
From Republicans
I think having Mayor Giuliani come and testify is important.
I want to get to Syria because I know you feel strongly about this and do agree with Leader McConnell, who said it was a grave mistake for the president to have pulled out of Syria. Is Congress just completely powerless here to limit the damage that you see?
We have some restrictions. It's always easier to compel an administration to stop doing something than it is to begin something. I think what we could be doing now is bringing in some of the heads of the military, the heads of the intelligence service, the heads of our humanitarian organizations to talk about what are we going to do to prevent ISIS from becoming resurgent, to prevent ISIS from coming back into that region. How are we going to be prepared for the humanitarian crisis, which is already happening? And that's why I think the leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, was correct in saying that this is indeed a grave mistake. ISIS is going to come back. We know that there's about 30,000 ISIS fighters that are throughout that region. We know the leader of ISIS is still around. And now, instead of saying this is a peace deal, unfortunately, and I still haven't seen all the details, but what I'm learning, it looks more like terms of surrender than a peace deal. And unfortunately, our enemies and our adversaries, like Iran, Russia, Turkey, they're playing chess, and unfortunately, this administration is playing checkers.
Quickly, yes or no, should President Erdogan of Turkey come to the White House next month?
That's a tough question. I think,
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough question.
All right, that's not a yes or no, but we'll give you time. Thank you, Congressman. I got to leave it there.